Okay, today the agenda, what we're going to do is just start by the welcoming as well as the introduction to all the 5 panelist members that we have here today. We're then going to go into some prepared questions that we'll get the panelist members to answer for us, and then we're going to open it up to the forum for all the other questions. But the number one thing to know is we're going to be using the GoToMeetings questions tool, which as you logged in, you'll see that up underneath or just above your chat mode buttons, there's a questions panel. That's what we'd like to use today in order for you guys to form your questions. And if you have any additional information like which panelists you'd like to see answer that one, just go ahead and put that in that space there and then send the enter. And then we come up to that panel or portion of the webinar, we'll try to get those questions as we go through them. So, and again, with the number of attendees, we're going to be almost reaching our max limits today, so we might not get to them all, but if you do have a specific question that you feel was not addressed, again, feel free to just contact me and I'll make sure I get it out to the panelists so that we can get you the information that you guys are looking for as a result of this webinar. Just as a reminder to everybody, this webinar will be recorded, and at the end of the event, the recording will be posted on the an AMS webinar website, as well as we'll provide you all that where this information, the recording as well as these slides, will be located. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce you to our panelists today. First off, I'd like to welcome Matt Coleman. Mr. Coleman joined Nephila Advisors LLC in July 2011 as a portfolio analyst. His primary responsibilities include weather risk analysis, structuring support, and ongoing business development with the company's weather and natural catastrophe funds. Previous Mr. Coleman spent 4 years as a senior weather risk analyst at Citadel LLC, where he supported investments in energy, reinsurance, and weather derivations. Mr. Cohen holds a MBA in finance from the University of Virginia Darden School of Business and an MS in chemistry and environmental sciences from the University of Virginia. So again, Dave, hey, thanks for coming out today and joining our panel.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Dave Margolin, and Dave provides a meteorological link between Earth Risks customers and the company's analytic products. He develops the Earth Risks short-term research milestones and manages the internal research team. Dave has been at the forefront of weather research and forecasting as applied to the energy market since 2000. Prior to joining Earth Risk, he managed the United States Meteorological Desk at the Citadel Investment Group, one of the world's largest hedge funds, working with the teams of investors on equities and commodities markets. Dave's diverse accomplishments include creating forecast tools to predict severe freezes in Florida's citrus belt and profitable weather natural gas trading strategies. Well, at the Citadel, Dave's strong relationship building skills enabled him to pool talent from highly regarded research and academic groups from around the world. And prior to moving to Chicago to work with Citadel, Dave spent 3 years with the Reliant Energy in Houston, Texas, where he supported power and natural gas trading. He also worked as a weather channel in AccuWeather, where he gained experience in forecasting and communication. Dave is committed to the meteorological community and is actively involved with the American Meteorological Society. Dave serves as the board chair for the AMS's Board of Private Sector Meteorologists and is current manager for the board's mentorship program. He has been a mentor in the program for the last 3 years, and Dave completed his undergraduate meteorology degree in 1988, and then went on to receive his Master's of Science from the Florida State University in 2000. So Dave, again, as the president or the chair of the board, again, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Pete. It's great to be here.
All right, and then next on the list is Brian Bastian. Let me see if I got his. Let me just go down one bullet here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up. Brian, again, he's a systems engineer with the SI organization. This is an engineering firm that specializes in full life cycle systems engineering and integration for the United States intelligence communities, Department of Defense, and other civil agencies. Prior to work at the SI organization, Brian was a weather risk analyst for the AccuWeather Inc., as well as forecasted for ZX Incorporated, and supported the production of the Penn State Meteorology Department's World Weather Show. Brian is actively involved with the AMS Board of Private Sector Meteorology, serving as a mentorship program committee chairman. Additionally, he serves as a winter weather consultant for Storm Surge LLC and writes a weather blogs, liveweatherblogs.com. Brian has an MS in meteorology from Penn State University, graduated in 2012 with a concentration in weather risk management and finance. He is currently pursuing a master's in engineering in systems engineering. So Brian, hey, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate it. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, and then Josh Dar. He has spent over a decade in the private sector with a desire to apply weather and climate information to risk management in a variety of fields. His career began in the insurance and reinsurance catastrophe modeling industry, employed with the risk management solutions, where he held a variety of roles in the business consulting, personal management, catastrophe response, and production management marketing. Thereafter, he spent over 6 years in the commodity sector working in the Chesapeake Energy for both energy and agricultural business. Josh is also an adjunct professor with the Northern Illinois University, where he helps apply undergraduate and graduate research to private sector applications. So Josh, thank you, and thank you for bringing your experience along with you. Okay, and then let's go on to Nick. Now Nick's a more recent member to the board. He is our student member, and Nick received his undergraduate degree with honors from SUNY Albany in atmospheric science with a minor in mathematics in May of 2012. After graduation, he enrolled in a PhD program at SUNY Albany, working with the undergraduate co-advisors. His research interests include advancing understanding of tropical and extratropical interactions, as well as the associated model biases, as well as advancing understanding and prediction of the agriculture of drought and how well models can resolve the onset and breakdown of the agricultural drought. Nick has a wide range of professional experience, including work as a student intern at the National Weather Service in Albany, as a researcher forecaster for the International Center for Lightning Research and Technologies in Florida, and more recently as a research collaborator with Earth Risk Technologies. So there's our panelists. Hi, and just welcome, Nick, and again, thanks for joining us and providing your more of a student-based expertise for us today.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
Hey, no problem. Thanks. Okay, what we're going to do now is one note here is that the panelists today, you'll see, have a pretty strong background in the private sector. We do have a couple people that have gone into the government, but the primary focus for the board and the panelists today was really the private sector. However, we don't want to discourage you in that most of the information or advice that we're going to hopefully provide to you today is definitely applicable for whatever the job market or whatever opportunities that you may be pursuing. I think any of their advice is going to be helpful for any of those type settings, and of course towards the job market. Okay, so let's get started. First off, we're going to probably go for approximately 20 minutes or so. We just had some preset questions that I think will hit the majority of the common questions that you guys might have. So without further ado, the first question today is about networking. I hear all about networking. It's all about who you know. How do I get started networking, though? And again, because of the when you're just getting started, that's going to be a tough pill to crack to get started and get involved with that. So I think we're going to throw this over to Brian first.
Sure.
What would you advise for anybody that's just starting out and how to get involved with networking?
Well, yeah, I would say first off, networking, I think in and of itself is a skill, and so it almost needs to be practiced. And ultimately, it makes the difference between landing the position you want or not in the private sector. So I would say the best way to get started networking is is really, if you're an undergraduate or a graduate student, is to start forming relationships with your professors and gain some internship experience. Professors, you're already paying to go to school, so they're right there for you. And I can tell you right now, a lot of the different experiences and internships I was able to have as an undergraduate student that ultimately progressed into some of the jobs that I have now that I'm out in the real world, have been a result of just talking with professors and having them understand my interests early on. And typically, professors involved in research, typically that research is with private companies outside of the university. So by getting involved with your professors, you could get attached to some work actually in the private sector just through your professors. So and along with that, internship experience is crucial because that sort of builds that initial foundation of your network.
Oh, thanks, Brian. I guess I was muted there. I got to unmute myself there. But thanks for that. And then next I'm going to go off to our student, Nick. What would you say for that question?
So on top of what Brian's saying, professors are definitely one of the best ways to break into the private sector. Another great way to practice networking is when you're at conferences, sit in on seminars that you're interested in, and then afterwards talk to the speakers, engage the speakers, and also engage people you're sitting around in the discussion. So if you've done some undergraduate research or graduate research that is directly pertaining to the private sector, you're talking about your research might be another great way to network at conferences or to sort of break the ice. If you can get the person you're pursuing interested in your research, well then maybe you've got a way to go out to lunch with them and sort of expand the relationship. Another great way to start networking, believe it or not, is to get involved in weather forums. So I post regularly at American Weather, and I often get a lot of responses from people in the private sector who want to follow up on some of the things I'm talking about. So there are definitely a bunch of weather forums out there. American Weather is one that's used a lot by both public and private sector employees, and it's a good way to get your name out. So also, if you're a little bit more shy and going up to someone in person that you've never really met, then you can definitely use weather forums to your advantage to get your ideas out there to the private sector as well as the public sector, and also to start making a name for yourself.
Great, thanks, Nick. And then lastly, let's go ahead and head over to Dave. What would you say?
Well, I thought those were great points. I guess to add to that, well, first of all, I think Brian said this too, but I think it's probably the most important thing. And a lot of folks, or some folks, may not realize it when they're just getting out of school, but it really is important to be tenacious about it. And that's hard for some people. I know that doesn't come natural to me. Sometimes if you reach out to folks, whether you're at a conference or whether just through email or phone, you might, and especially if it's someone who's more senior in your field, you kind of feel like you're bothering them, but don't let that stop you. Absolutely do not let that stop you. It's too critical. It's too important. You got to get your foot in the door, and the best way to get your foot in the door is through networking, reaching out to folks. The worst they can say, or the worst thing they could do, is just not respond to you, and that will happen. But there's so many opportunities, and you don't know where those opportunities are. You might have a skill set that they're looking for, and so when you come knocking, when you send that potential employer, an email, and they happen to be looking for someone to do a little bit of web work, and they find out that you can do web work, and you're a cheap resource, it's a great way to get your foot in the door. Or maybe there's a job opening just at that time. You got your foot in the door. Don't let, and sometimes you'll see on job applications about having 3, 5, 10 years of experience. Don't let that stop you too, right? Because if they like you, if you impress them, they're not going to care if you've got 1 year or 5 year. So the only thing I'd add is, be prepared though, right? So you're trying to increase your chances. So it's a numbers game. It's about reaching out to folks, but be prepared in the sense of, have your resume ready, have the information ready at your disposal of why they should hire you or why they should put you in touch with someone who could hire you. Maybe they know a friend or contact. So be prepared. And the last thing is, and this is really important, this could help really separate you from someone else, is think of ways you can help them. So, maybe you can't get a job with them full-time right away, but again, maybe you can provide some research or short-term meta-analysis or something that you'll basically do it for free. And it's not really for free because you're going to have a great experience too. You're going to get something from it. But, see if you can offer them something that you are willing to give. And I think that also gives you an excellent opportunity to maybe get your foot in the door with someone who otherwise, might not be willing to have a conversation with you or explore job opportunities.
Okay, sorry, I got to get this mute button kind of fixed out a little bit faster here. Thanks, Dave. Hey, thanks, guys. I think those are great points, and really just, don't be shy, I guess, is a key point there. Get out there, talk to people, make sure that you can, most people are willing to help, so great input there. Okay, this next question is related to job experiences, and a lot of the jobs that are being advertised or what we see all require experience. Just starting out, how do I go about getting this experience in order to compete for these jobs? So let's take that one over to Matt. What do you think about that?
Well, some of the tips I have for that question, actually we've heard in the previous question, and I echo those thoughts. With a lot of these positions, I would say for entry level, they typically have a range of 0 to 3 years. And even if the range is higher than that and you think you may not be the right person for that job, really take a good look at the job description and take a look at all of your experience, whether it's coursework, research, anything you've learned in networking, clubs, and really make sure that all those keywords that you see, whether it's computer skills, relevant coursework, other topics, make sure those keywords are also in your resume and in your various forms of correspondence with the companies. And if you do move along in the interview process, make sure that you can articulate not only your understanding of the company, but what you think you bring to the table and why you think your skills are particularly suited for the position and for the organization. And if you're able to at least ask thoughtful questions or think a bit about how your skills are relevant, that can be very eye-opening for the interviewer. They know that it's obvious you've done your research on the company, on the role, and how you fit within that firm. So there are lots of different ways that you can play that whole interviewing job search game to your benefit.
Great. And then Josh, you just had some more recent experiences there too in terms of trying to seek jobs and everything. What do you think about that in terms of how do these newbies, you guys just trying to get into this field, how do they go about building up that experience?
Oh, great question, Pete. And I think one of the key items here that's really important, and I see it time and time again, as you're coming out, that first job is likely not going to be your dream job. That first job may open up a whole new world that you've never seen, and actually may put you in a place 2-3 years down the road that you really like, you never knew even could exist, in applying your skills to meteorology and downstream businesses. And so I would really urge, if you have an opportunity to get the first job, to take it. And a lot of times I see reticence to move, and that could be a financial consideration. It could be a family situation. But if there's any way possible you can relocate for a first job, to get that first job, I would strongly urge you to do it. It will be character building from the standpoint of living in a new area, getting your feet underneath you as you start your career. But it also affords you skills that you'll move forward with in your career longer term. So really, I think being open to something that may not be what you thought would be your first job or is not your dream opportunity, but could offer you a new set of skills that can broaden your base, if you will, for that next job that maybe you get 2, 3, 4 years into your career that could open up the door for that dream opportunity. I think you'll be really surprised how much you'll learn and how much you broaden your base for your career longer term if you can just get that first job. And don't be afraid to move. If you have that potential and have that ability to move, don't be afraid to do it.
Great. And then how about over to you, Dave? What do you think?
I think, well, again, I think those are great points by Matt and Josh. And I guess the only thing I'd add is, think of it, well, especially if you're still in school, if you still have some time left in school, just think about opportunities at school where you can, maybe learn a skill or something or improve on something in the next 6 months or year, whether it's maybe a certain programming language or a communication skill. And there's so many opportunities online now with online courses too, so it doesn't even have to be at your own school. So definitely look at things like that. And the other thing is just don't be overwhelmed too. When I think about the situation when I'm hiring, right? So that people who are recent graduates can't possibly know everything or have experience have a lot of experience. But so what I look for, and I think what a lot of folks look for, is those folks who are the go-getters. Those folks who say, you know what, I don't have experience forecasting, but I've been in a lot of forecast contests, or I don't have a forecast. I didn't have forecast or experience in programming, but I'm taking an online course in MATLAB right now, and I'm actually writing my own code, and I'm actually working on a project. Or same thing with communications. Like, well, actually I wasn't a great writer. I didn't have a lot of stuff, but I'm taking an online business course. So it's looking at incremental improvements, trying to pick up in areas where you don't have experience, and there's lots of opportunities to do that. Internships too give you the opportunity, or again, just working on ad hoc projects. So, again, so I think the baseline, for employers, they're going to look at you and say they're going to understand that you don't have experience. So it's trying to fill in those gaps with things that can separate you from some other folks. And those are just, I think, a couple ideas of ways that can help.
Super. And the next question, it deals with more of what, from an employer's based, what type of skills are employees in meteorology really looking for currently in this day's market? And I'd like to send that one over to Dave with his experience there at Earth Risk there.
Sure. And so, from my perspective, and I think this applies in general to our field as things have evolved, and maybe well beyond meteorology, but in particular with a small company. Right now I'm with a small company. And so having a diverse skill set is very important, right? All things being equal, when we're hiring, if you've got two great, forecasters, what's going to set those two, people apart is those other skill sets, right? It's the programming, it's the, having a skill set in project management, communications, things like that, quantitative research, analytical skills. So, think about, just try to think about how you can diversify your skill set. And what I'd recommend is whatever field you want to go into, that's where you probably want to start. So, in other words, if you're going into broadcast meteorology versus, more of a analytical position, you're probably going to focus that diversity around that position. But overall, I think a lot of these positions, you want someone who has strong communication skills, written and oral, and also a strong ability to do research and analytics. So if you can combine sort of those two things, plus, say, if you're in forecasting, I think all things being equal, you give yourself a competitive advantage over a lot of other folks in the field.
Great. And then what about you, Nick? I mean, you've been out there kind of looking at the new job markets out there too. What would you say is the primary skills that you've seen the employers look for? And with your recent successes with the internships and everything else, what would you say?
So for me, I'll start by saying my interests are more on the research and product development side of things. So I've really been in contact with companies who are looking for people to do research for them and solve some of the problems that they can't yet solve themselves. So in my job hunt and internship experiences, the biggest skills that I think made me most successful were my programming skills, my research skills, my communication and writing skills, but also sort of my own ability to be my own boss, in the sense that the research, you're often looking at something no one else has ever looked at, and you need to be able to use your research skills to address the problem in a way that maybe nobody else has ever thought of. So you're consulting for a company, and the company says, I want to do this, but we have no idea how to do it. Do you have any idea of what might be the best way to do it? So your ability to be your own boss in terms of research and try out different methodologies and not be afraid to do something no one else has ever done before is huge if you're interested in the research and product development side of things. The other skills that I have that I think also pushed me ahead of the rest of the pack were my web development skills. So I have a running website now where I run some products that people in the private sector are interested in about and they look at. So the companies I talk to understand that I have this web development skill too. So it's really important to get your programming and research and communication skills up to par if you're interested in the research and product development side of the private sector.
Excellent. A good diverse base sounds like a positive thing. And then finally, how about you, Brian? I mean, you just had recent successes there as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess a lot of what I could say sort of echoes the points that Dave and Nick have made. Certainly, diversity of skill sets is key in terms of making yourself stand out amongst your fellow peers when applying, for new jobs in the private sector, specifically related to meteorology. So employers are typically looking at, strong problem-solving ability, the ability to pick up things on the fly, even if you don't know, the ability to go off on your own and learn those things. So taking a night class, or I know I didn't know how to program in R, so I found tutorials on YouTube and online to figure out how to program in R. So there's those skill sets, and obviously strong written and oral communication skills. I can't stress that enough. The amount of writing and the number of PowerPoint presentations you'll make is pretty incredible. So having good technical writing ability and ability to communicate key technical points to your subordinates is obviously going to be crucial. And then alongside that, diversity along the lines of data analysis and programming experience and understanding of statistics. In regards to meteorology, those are skill sets that are very, very important. And I've always been a strong advocate as well. I kind of have this meteorology +1 attitude. So, I see a lot of, some of the fellow students that I graduated with and those that are younger than me, and they really are good at forecasting. They really sort of understand the atmospheric sciences, and they're great meteorologists in that sense. But I'm an advocate for adding one other thing to that, whether it's finance or understanding futures and options markets or commodity trading or instrumentation. If you can sort of add any one other skill set along with your technical meteorology skill set, you sort of write your own ticket to success there. That certainly sticks out amongst employers.
Great. I was just reviewing some of the questions here, and what I'd like to do is that was a pretty good summary of some of the prepared questions, but I really want to kind of get it open to the field here as soon as we can. So I'm going to switch gears here. We're going to go over to some of the question bases now. Before we get started, though, one of the questions we had previously was just we asked about the Board of Private Sector Meteorologist Mentorship Program. And I was wondering if you could just take a brief moment, Brian, and just kind of tell us, what can that do for anybody in terms of the program and what it offers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the mentorship program, I guess, has been around for about 5 years or so now, I want to say. And, I think the first question of the day we got was, how do I start building my network? Well, hey, everybody. We, the Board of Private Sector Meteorology, we actually have a mentorship program, and that can be an easy, piece to sort of start building that foundation of your network. It can be simply one node. So the mentorship program, pairs you with one other mentor in the private sector, and they're from all over the place. And obviously, by providing you, an industry professional to give you some candid feedback, they can help answer, not only questions sort of we're covering today, but simple things like, how do I write a cover letter? Or help me, update my resume. Or can you give me some contacts to reach out to in the private sector? Here's what I'm interested in. They really are the mentors in this program really are going to be your best, first step effort towards, landing your first job, or, even just juggling, potential options whether or not to go to grad school or not. It's really, the mentorship program provides you, that one person who's in industry, has been where you are now, and answer any of those questions that you may have.
Great, thanks, Brian. And let's go ahead and get started with the questions then. We have, I'm going to start with the first two. The first one deals with, are there any jobs in meteorology with a, pretty much for an associate's degree? That came from Robert there, as well as how important is it to have a master's or a PhD? I'm going to combine these two together in terms of what would be the degree requirements. I mean, is there really a job in associates in meteorology for somebody, as well as, what about the advanced degrees? What type of jobs might be offered for that? So what I'm going to do is, it's kind of a two-phase question there, see if we can answer both along the same line of question here. But Matt, I'm going to start with you on that one. What do you think about the associate's degree in terms of job opportunities, as well as then the importance of possibly the advanced degrees as well? What do you think?
Overall, I would say that most of the applications and resumes that I've reviewed, most of the job descriptions I've seen within the meteorology field require a bachelor's degree or higher. Now, that's not to say that you can't get creative and thoughtful about how you get to where you want to be. If you have an associate's degree and you're able to articulate what you can bring to the table and maybe demonstrate, future learning or future courses that you desire to take to meet whatever the standards of the position are, I would think that an employer would at least hear what you have to say about that. With respect to, going beyond that with masters and PhDs, it really is a case-by-case basis. It depends on what you're interested in, what you want, and what you're ultimately after. Many positions that do advertise, like I said, are just focused on the bachelor's degree, and a lot of the learning, so much learning that you can't really comprehend until you get in the workforce is done on the job, and that person with that degree may not ever go back to get any kind of master's degree. They may find out later that something's very relevant and they want a graduate degree. Others are very interested in research and either want to be a professor or want to be in academia of some sort, and then they see that the natural progression to get into the research area they want is a PhD. What I would advise against is pursuing a degree just for the sake of pursuing it. They can be expensive, they can be time-consuming, and you're also missing out on potentially, it's a cost-benefit analysis. You're missing out on money that you could potentially be making in a job. So you want to just be thoughtful and make sure that whatever your medium and long-term goals are matching with the decisions that you're making in the short term.
Great. And then, yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay. Josh, I was going to pass it over to you next in terms of your experience there with the degree positions and the requirements associated with it.
Yeah, I see an associate's degree as an interesting degree if you can potentially pair it with, if there's aspirations to either just have the associate's degree and then maybe get another bachelor's degree in something else. The combination of those two would be very interesting to an employer. Say you have an associate's in meteorology but an undergraduate in business, or an undergraduate in statistics, or some other field where you can marry the two together. That would be something that, to be quite honest, I have not seen on a resume in my career, and would be something that would definitely pique my interest as to showing a broad base of skills to bring towards a job. And I think Brian put it best earlier. It's always this meteorology +1, and so that's how I would think through maybe the associate's degree, is trying to marry that with something else to then get your foot in the door for a job opportunity. With regards to the master's degree, Matt had some great points, and just to follow up on that for a second, I would say if you're debating, if you have an inkling that you want to go proceed on some research, and you have an inkling to go do that, then I would say, I would urge you to go get a master's degree. I feel that when I got my master's degree, it accelerated my learning that I had during my bachelor's significantly, so that extra 2 years of the master's degree was equal, if not even greater than the 4 years of education I received in my bachelor's. So if you have that opportunity, I would pursue it, but Matt brought up a great point. If your heart's not in it, don't go do it. Even though it may potentially open up a couple more doors for you, a 2 years master's degree, if your heart's not in it, will be a grueling experience and not a lot of fun for you or for the staff that you're trying to serve in their research agenda. So only go for that advanced master's degree if your heart's in it, but if it is, I think those 2 years generally will pay off longer term in your career, and I think generally the job market has moved a little bit in the past 5-7 years towards looking more towards a master's versus a bachelor's. And because of economic conditions and how overall the financial markets and economy has performed, a lot of people have gone to take that extra step towards a master's, and it's increasingly a point of differentiation that is worth it, only if your heart is into doing it, though.
All right. So hopefully, in terms of, hopefully we answered the both questions there in series. That just having associates, I don't think that that's a negative. As long as you have something else to bring forward to the table in terms of cross-disciplinary type things, as well as for your master's and PhD. It depends on what the job is required and the skill sets that the employer might be looking for. So let's go on to the next question. And I see the James appears to be offline, so we'll kind of skip over there. But Ethan is interested in the weather risk management field, which we so happen to have a couple experts on the panel here, in fact. And he's interested in what type of requirements would he need to be to get into that specialty or into that career field. How much additional finance or management knowledge do you think is going to be required? And see what else, weather risk as a viable career field. So, and again, the two people here, I'm going to pick on Matt again. I know that he's been doing a lot with the weather risk boards and different philosophies here. So go ahead, Matt. Why don't you give some input there?
Sure. One thing I would say that I've seen fairly often is that if you have a choice between getting the science or the engineering or the math degree or the financial, the business side of the degree, because both of these ultimately kind of come together within weather risk management, that it's always nice to start on that quantitative side, because a lot of the business skills, the finance skills, can be picked up on the job. when I think about my path and the way that I went about it, I think it was a professor, one of my calculus professors, my first year of college, said, you know, she knew I was doing some soul searching, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and she asked me, do you see yourself wearing a lab coat for the rest of your life or a business suit? And you know, it's very simple, but I thought, well, if I had to pick one, I'd probably be more on the suit side of the fence. And that just kind of sparked my mind thinking more about what's going on in this risk management world. And I had some internship experience where I worked with a researcher who quantified the economic value of weather forecasts, and that opened up my eyes to some of the different industries that actually think about the risks of weather, which there are many. And I started out looking a lot in the insurance industry and understanding how the science of meteorology gets folded into that and the other types of interdisciplinary work and colleagues that I would be interfacing with, which is what really excited me. And at the end of the day, what I enjoy most about the field is that the weather changes every day, the markets, the financial markets change every day, and there's always a unique problem to solve, because whether it's a government agency or a specific company or a municipality, a city, people are starting to think a lot more about how the weather's movement impacts their costs or revenues. And it's becoming, it's been a slow, steady process of a growing body of knowledge and research that started to come to the table. And you know, I would say you're where you are now is a good start with focusing on those numbers, understanding the weather, and then either looking at reading on your own in textbooks or taking classes on the side, or maybe picking up a minor or another major. You know, that can be a way to really round out the financial and business side, risk management side of the learning.
Great, thanks, Matt. And then I'm going to switch it up. Here's another question. I'm going to send this one over to Nick. This is a question regarding programming. Just talking about as a skill set, what are one or more languages would you best be focusing on for the meteorology field? What would you say there, Nick?
So a lot of the stuff I program in is MATLAB. MATLAB's great because you can do the weather analysis in terms of plotting on maps, but you can also do all the heavy statistics that you need to do in MATLAB. And if you have the statistics toolbox in MATLAB, you can work with all sorts of different linear regression models for predictions and things like that. The other important languages to know are basically, believe it or not, how to use Excel. A lot of people like things in terms of Excel spreadsheets. So that's pretty big, and I know one of the other panelists mentioned R. So R is basically a free version of MATLAB. It can do a lot of the hardcore statistics, and you can manipulate it to do the weather analysis too. But if you are pressed for money and want to start coding on things that are free, start with R and learn how to do some of the basic statistical analysis in R. And then you can also start with NCL. NCL is great for weather analysis in terms of looking at maps and advection and all sorts of fun things like that. So NCL and R are two really good programs that are free that you can start working with. And then if you have extra money lying around to start learning MATLAB, you can get a student license of MATLAB and you can start playing around with that too.
Excellent. Next question, I'm going to switch over here to see who is the question here. Let me pull that up. The question is, what are the websites that one could look at to find jobs in the private sector? You know, he's mentioned a couple here that are limited, but what are some resources, what are some websites that are actually offering or providing that input for some of the private sector jobs? What I'd like to do is pass that question over to probably Josh first. What do you think?
Well, I certainly got to plug the AMS website. I'm sure everyone that's on this knows about the AMS job board. The National Weather Association has a job board. Penn State has one that's been quite useful over the years. Several other universities have one. But what I did when I came out of graduate school is I looked at the sectors I was interested in, which at that time was commodities and insurance, and I just started researching to research as hard as I possibly could all the company websites, all of their job boards, and then I set up a link, like a rapid-fire links to all the job boards with searches to see if there were any opportunities at those companies that were useful to me. Now, that was about 15 years ago, so certainly times have progressed, and one area that I found success in a job search I've just completed here over the past couple months is absolutely get your name onto LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a tremendous resource for not only starting to do a bit of networking and trying to find people in the field who may be doing something that you have an interest in doing, but you can also get emailed to you jobs that match your profile. They have an automatic algorithm, it looks like, to pull job postings that look like they could fit your experience or your basically all the information you put up on yourself on LinkedIn. That's been an incredibly eye-opening thing for me to see in my job search over the past couple months, and would highly recommend that. And you can get the free version. You can also pay up for premium if you want to do that. I didn't do that in my recent job search, but I think if you hit it from multiple angles, that's great. And then again, it goes back to the networking. At most jobs you are going to find via networking, and so any networking contacts you've set up, don't be afraid to reach out to them. As Dave Margolin said earlier, the worst thing that can happen is you don't get a response. And so then you're no farther along than if you hadn't asked the question to begin with. So I really think websites is one thing, but you have to be as holistic and as open as possible to different ways to try and get that initial conversation on a job situation. Then it's time to prove yourself via a phone call or an on-site meeting. So those are some ways I would think about tackling, just to try and think more broadly than just the job posting website.
Hey, this is Matt here, and that reminds me on the networking side. I mean, for the benefit, my personal story is that both of my jobs that I've had now since exiting school were created for me. They weren't on job posting sites. They weren't on any websites. The first job, a friend of mine told me about an internship at a hedge fund, and I didn't know what a hedge fund was or how meteorology was even involved with that, but I just wanted to go and ask questions and learn about it, and that interview went well. I ended up being extended a full-time offer because of all the networking and everything that went on with that interview process. And in the job that I have now, I went to the company's website. I saw that there was, they had email addresses listed for all the employees, and I found the one who went to my undergrad program, and that was the connection that I used. And after I emailed him and sent him my resume, he said, "Oh, we like your resume. A couple of the other portfolio managers and partners in the office would like to talk to you." So, I mean, it just kind of snowballed from there. And again, you know, both positions, they weren't advertised anywhere, but once I was able to get in front of people and explain what it is I'm interested in, jobs were materialized from that.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah, that's go ahead.
Oh, sorry, this is Dave Margolin. Matt triggered a thought for me too. This is slightly different, but kind of related. The two jobs I had before this one at Earth Risk, both of those positions I did not get the first time I applied. Reliant Energy in Houston, I applied there. I didn't get a position. They ended up calling me back, I don't know, 2-3 months later, asking if I was interested. Another position had come up. And the same exact thing happened. Again, I didn't even think about this until this call. But at Citadel in Chicago, that the initial position I applied for, I did not get it. Someone else got the job. But then a couple months, I guess they liked me, and a couple months later, a different position opened up, and it was something that was more similar to, I guess, my skill set. And, you know, so I interviewed again and got the job. So it's also interesting just the persistence and perseverance. You know, just getting your foot in the door with some of these places so that they remember you, so that the next time something does come up, you're going to be one of the first people that, they think of and call.
Great. And then this seems to be a popular topic. There's a couple other questions relating to how to find a job and everything. Brian, do you want to provide any additional inputs there?
Yeah, it's interesting. So Josh, I was making little notes right before Josh went through his, and we had all the same things. And it was check out university pages for job posting with the Penn State Meteorology Department's page. Really utilizing LinkedIn. To research, the different companies you might be interested in the industry you're targeting, and then building off your network. And then another thing that sparked me is I was just thinking all the job opportunities that I've ever had, including the position I currently have at the SI, were created for me. And they really sort of, they grew out of the network and the relationships that I made with various people. Like the position I have now, came out of, I was friends with a guy at Penn State, and we played squash together, and we ended up going to his house, and I started talking to his dad, and I'm telling him my passion for weather risk management and understanding the impacts of meteorology on business continuity and the bottom line. And one thing led to another. He said, "Hey, I'd love to have your resume," and it turns out he's one of the senior vice presidents of the SI, and so they brought me in for an interview, and that's how I got my current position. So. Really, building your network and always being prepared. I think, Matt, you touched on that, or somebody did, and that is, or Dave, it might have been you, to always be prepared because you never know who you're going to meet. And I had a great mentor and boss at AccuWeather that told me once, he said, you make relationships with people, Brian, not positions. And that really sort of resonated with me, the idea that, just because I'm meeting you today, and you might even be, the same position as me or one person above me, 10, 15 years from now, who knows where you're going to be. But if you make that relationship with a person off the bat, then it doesn't matter, 10, 15 years down the road, you already have that relationship with that person, and they could be in a position to help you out. So just something I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, that's great advice. And then finally, because Nick is kind of going through the motions now and looking around for jobs as well. Anything that you can add there, Nick?
I think the other panelists really covered everything. Definitely LinkedIn, all the other websites, and also, again, weather forums can be a pathway to job opportunities. If you're posting something on a weather forum in an extended range forecast and it verifies and somebody really liked your methodology, you can build a relationship that way, and that is another way jobs can become created for you, I guess, as everyone else has been saying.
Oh, great. We're getting ready to run out of time here, but to summarize or kind of bring it all together here, I'd like to ask one final question, and that's what is the one piece of advice that you would offer to all the attendees today? I'm just going to go through the panelists. You just keep it to about 30 seconds, a minute. Just kind of give us what's the number one thing you think you need to provide from your perspective, both from as an employer as well as from a student, as well as from both sides of the house, like for Brian. Give us a quick summary of what you think is the most important advice that you could provide. And let's go ahead and start with Matt.
Well, I guess number one, just don't sell yourself short as you're recognizing what you like and don't like, whether it's a course or a particular type of research. I mean, file that stuff away so that you can start to pare down the list of what's most appealing to you in terms of a career. The other thing I would mention is, don't get overwhelmed by the overall process when it comes to finding a job. At the end of the day, a job is a partnership between you, the employee, and an employer. Now, you may not have a lot of leverage because you don't have much experience, but at the end of the day, it's a partnership. So the person interviewing you is thinking about what you can do for them, and you're also thinking about what that employer can do for you in terms of building your skill sets, surrounding you with intelligent people who you enjoy working with, and growing your career.
Great. And then moving on to Dave, what do you think?
So I'm tempted to say that we should all pick up playing squash after hearing Brian's story, but no.
Yes.
I really think for me, if there's one thing I'd want to communicate, in the one thing I usually communicate in the mentorship program, is networking. You know, and it's I would say the three facets or three components there. So you know, once you have your someone or a list of people to reach out to, don't hesitate. Just do it. Don't think twice about whether you should or if you're qualified. Just do it. Two, you know what Brian was saying. Make sure you're prepared. So you know, have your resume ready. Have all the information about why you're qualified, or you think you're qualified, or at least marginally qualified, whatever it is. But have all that information ready. And then again, most importantly, and this is what a lot of folks don't do, but this could separate you. Think about how you can help that individual. Think about how you can provide them a cheap resource. If you can provide them a cheap resource, if you can do a one-off project for them, if you could do a quick programming analysis for them, if you can do, you know, write up a quick technical white paper for them on some subject, if you have a month of time or some free time because you're in grad school and a few hours you can devote to that, it is amazing, I think, the opportunity you'll have to get your foot in the door with those folks.
Great. And then moving off to Brian.
Yeah, sort of echoing the points of Matt and Dave. You know, I would say it's really, you know, start building your network. Take advantage of programs like, you know, our mentorship program, and reach out to people you know in the field. You know, I think Dave, you said the worst thing that can happen is they don't respond. But I would say when you do send those people, you know, those folks an email, or you give them a phone call or whatever you do, you know, make sure you're prepared, make sure you're articulate, and be passionate when you're talking with them. Nothing goes further, I think, than really showing, you know, potential employer or just a peer or someone in your network, you know, how interested and passionate you are about the field that you're interested in getting into. And then finally, I would just say, you know, don't get discouraged. You know, my graduating class from Penn State, you know, I would say I was one of the few who graduated that got something that they really wanted right off the bat. So many of my friends, you know, they didn't get necessarily the thing that they wanted, or they didn't hear anything within the first 3 months following graduation. But they, you know, they stuck with it. They continued to apply places. They continued to build their network. They continued to, you know, build those tangible and intangible skill sets, you know, while they were waiting, you know, to potentially land a job. And they didn't get discouraged, and something later down the line came up, and, you know, they took advantage of that opportunity. So yeah, do not get discouraged.
Great. And then on to Josh.
Yeah, nice follow-up, nice lead in there for me there. My one piece of advice is to really keep your eyes and ears open to something that may be different outside your current or your initial expectation as you start out your job search and your job focus towards starting your career. This kind of my first opportunity really stumbled into my lap after doing a lot of work. It was way far afield from what I thought I would be doing, but it's opened doors to me, and that job actually is the reason why I got the job that I just accepted here last week. And so just keeping your eyes and ears and your mind wide open as to what could be your first job, and stretching yourself maybe to do something that's outside of the core field of meteorology, but something far afield. That will just pay dividends in your career. And people that have done that and people I've seen done that, they're the type of people that will get a position created for themselves deeper into their career, tailored to their skills and their talents. And you've heard multiple people on this board say that happened to them. It also happened to me in my job search here now. So keep your mind open. Think about all possibilities. Be open to something that may scare you or really challenge you in your first job. I think you'll be really surprised 1 or 2 years into your career how much you enjoy it and how much you've learned.
Great. And then finally, Nick.
I guess on top of what everyone else has said, really sit down and evaluate yourself and learn how to market your strengths, and also learn how to embrace your weaknesses so that you can focus on your weaknesses and turn them into strengths in the future. And doing those two things will definitely help you most in the long run.
And great. We're now going to be concluding here. We're just about out of time. So Matt, Dave, Brian, Josh, Nick, hey, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your advice and your experiences with us today. As a reminder to everyone, this webinar recording will be posted up on the AMS website, as well as I'll make sure they get out that the details of how to get this recording, as well as the PowerPoint slides. We'll make sure those get posted, and it'll be sent out to all registrants. Thank you for the participants. Thanks for providing those great questions and helping us out. I hope that we're able to provide you at least some valuable perceptions and thoughts, opinions, just to help you succeed as you pursue a career in meteorology. For those attendees who registered with an interest in the BPSM mentorship program, we'll be emailing you out separately with information about that. At this point, though, I think all the matchings have occurred for this year, but again, we'll put you in the pool and get you the information and how to apply and all that other information.